The US are the most competitive market when it comes to native advertising. Almost every second dollar is spent in the US and the rest all over the world. Therefore, it's not always the smartest decision to start straight away in the US. In this video, we will take a look when it makes sense to start in the US and when you should start in tier 2 or tier 3 countries. Keep in mind, this is applicable for e-com, lead gen, arbitrage, and affiliate marketing. Hi everyone, my name is Marcel Sattler. I'm the founder of nativeadvertising.net, a platform where you can learn more about native ads, and we're an agency for nothing but native. When people start with native, they have the US in mind because it's a huge market and it's a very strong market when it comes to the purchasing power. However, the downside here when it comes to the US market is that the US market is expensive. CPMs, CPCs, they're more expensive than other markets out there. In online marketing in general, you speak in tier countries. So countries are together with tiers, and you have a tier 1 country selection. These are, for example, advanced economies like the US, Canada, Australia, Germany, UK. These are tier 1 countries. And here, usually you have competition, but also a very strong purchasing power. That means people in the country or in this tier zone, they do have money and they can spend it, and they do spend it every day. Then you have tier 2 countries, which are emerging markets, like for example, Indonesia, Singapore, Israel, these kind of countries which doesn't have that huge purchasing power, maybe also because of the size of the country or maybe because of the wealth in the country, but they're emerging markets. That means they have a lot of growth. And these countries are sometimes pretty interesting because the CPMs, the cost per mil, they're cheaper than in tier 1 countries. And you still have a very strong purchasing power there. However, keep in mind, the purchasing power, of course, is not the same or not directly comparable with tier 1 country purchasing power. Last but not least, you have tier 3 countries, which are less developed countries, like, for example, India, Ghana, and these kind of countries. And here it's pretty hard to make some profits or in general to advertise here because these countries are usually very poor and you don't have that high purchasing power. However, for search arbitrage, it might make sometimes a bit sense to also start in a tier 3 country, but in a majority of cases, it just makes sense to focus on tier 1 and tier 2 countries. So in a nutshell, the positive side on a tier 1 country is you have a high purchasing power, but also a high CPM, so the prices are higher. And on a tier 2 country, you have a more emerging market. That means the CPMs are a bit lower, but the purchasing power is also a bit lower, even though these countries, they have a very strong growth in general. My personal experience here, especially if you try native by yourself, is start with a less competitive country. And with a less competitive country, like for example, a tier 2 country, you have the big benefit that you can start with less budget and you don't have to over optimize your campaign. Because to be totally honest with you, in countries like the US, there are some big players, they just throw you out of the market with their budget, with their knowledge, with their advanced techniques. So it's very hard for you to step into the game. This is easier in tier 2 countries because in markets like Indonesia and so there is less competition and the prices are cheaper, so you can test with a little bit less budget. So it's easier to start in an easier market and then take your knowledge, grow your knowledge there, and then go with that knowledge to a tier 1 country. On the other hand side, if you want to scale and you're in a tier 2 country, then it makes sense to go to a tier 1 country because here you have a huge scaling factor. Imagine countries like USA, Canada, Australia, Germany, UK. These are huge economies. So if you go in there with your native ads, you can scale your campaigns to 7, 8, 10K easily in just one country. So basically with just copying and pasting the same campaign you do maybe also already run in a different country, you can just copy and paste it and run in a tier 1 country. And you can spend a lot of money here. And of course, you can turn it into positive return on ad spend. So one scaling strategy we always recommend our clients is, additionally to some other strategies here, is to go into different markets, into different countries. And always keep in mind here, usually until 10 grand per day, 15 grand per day, that doesn't really make sense to look over the border and check out a different country. But if you spend like 15, 20 grand per day with one product in one country, on one platform like Taboola or Outbrain, always keep in mind, okay, then it might make sense if you already use all of this. Let's say you are live on Taboola and Outbrain, you spend around 20 grand per day, and you want to scale more now. Then it makes sense to add another country here, because in the same country, for example, if it's Germany or UK, it's hard on a continuous basis to spend more. But also keep in mind, if you do run already in a tier 1 country and you're not profitable yet, for example, because you don't have that advanced knowledge yet or so, or not that high budgets, then step back, go to a tier 2 country, which can be way, way easier to achieve your goals, and try to make your campaign there profitable. I hope you liked that video. If so, I would extremely appreciate if you give me a thumbs up, and of course, when you subscribe to my channel and activate the bell to receive an update when I upload a new video here on YouTube, totally for free, about nothing but native. Have a good one. See you next time.